We're back with Alden Chodash of AldenBoxing.com. This past weekend, Alden, the super fight in the super middleweight division, Joe Calzaghe defeating Mikhail Kessler. What's your opinion on the fight?
Joe Calzaghe's awkwardness served him perfectly against the least awkward fighter in the world today. At least one of them. Mikhail Kessler is just perfect fundamentals that he brings through in every fight. But Joe Calzaghe's strange angles and looping punches crack the puzzle of Mikhail Kessler's solid offensive and defensive skills. And it's not that he outlanded Kessler, although he landed a significant amount of punches. However, the amount of punches he threw, as he's done in most of his recent fights, got him a decision. He just plain and simple outworked Mikhail Kessler.
Okay, of course, now they're talking Calzaghe, Bernard Hopkins. A, do you think Bernard has anything left? And B, if he does have something left, do you think Calzaghe can beat Bernard?
Yes, he does have something left. Bernard Hopkins has a lot left, but it was just a stylistic matchup that made him less than impressive against Winky Wright. But guess what? This is going to make him extremely unimpressive, the amount of punches that Joe Calzaghe throws. And Hopkins will land, but I think the pace is going to tell on Bernard Hopkins. Not that he's going to break down the stretch, it's just he won't get enough opportunities to land. And even if he does, Calzaghe is going to throw 3-1, possibly 5-1 for every shot that Hopkins throws.
So you say if they do meet up, Calzaghe should win an easy decision over Hopkins?
Not easy, but just as close as Mikhail Kessler got to beating Calzaghe.
Okay. A fellow that's career is somewhat up and down. Right now it's up. Robert Guerrero knocks out his opponent, Martin Honorio, on Saturday in one round. What do you think of Robert Guerrero? Is he potentially a big force in that division?
No, he's... actually, I changed my mind. Yeah, he is one of the biggest forces in the division. But man to beat is Chris John, and he's a very good fighter, especially compared to the skills of Robert Guerrero, who is just a mechanical fighter, just with a butting punch, which is improving each and every match. He's scored some impressive knockouts in the past, including some against Spendabazi and another veteran this Saturday, Martin Honorio. That was a shock, a huge knockout, one of the best of the year, just one shot, and it wiped out a top contender, which says a lot.
Right. Of course, it's going to be tough to get Chris John available. He doesn't seem to want to leave his country, but that would be an interesting fight, wouldn't it? Chris John, Robert Guerrero?
Yeah, I hadn't seen much of Chris John except for a few rounds of his victory over Juan Manuel Marquez last year. I'm going to go with a few sources that say Chris John deserved the decision. I don't think it was too controversial.
Okay. Now, moving on to future fights. Just announced, of course, nothing is official until it's official, but it looks like it's going to be Jeff Lacy versus Peter Manfredo on the undercard of Floyd Mayweather-Ricky Hatton. Assuming that Jeff Lacy is 100% back from his shoulder injury, do you think it's Lacy back on the winning track against Manfredo?
Assuming Lacy's 100%, he should knock out Manfredo. Manfredo is just not a real strong force, despite those great knockouts over Scotty Pemberton, as well as the one he scored against Joey Spina in his hometown of Providence, Rhode Island. Manfredo's a good in-fighter. He's a skilled in-fighter, but Lacy's a real strong fighter, and I think he's going to be fresh on the comeback. And his punch is going to be too much for Manfredo to fathom, yet let alone counter upon.
Okay, and quickly, this coming a week, it's Jadon Codrington, Sakio Bika in the final of the Contender. Briefly, who do you like in that fight?
I like Bika. Codrington throughout the series has won because of his punch, and what better opponents to knock out than Wayne Johnson and Brian Vera. Sakio Bika is a legitimate super middleweight contender, and he's much better in terms of skills and maturity. than Jadon Carrington, who's not going to be too competitive.
Okay, so you got Pico over Jadon in that fight.
Yes.
Okay, briefly, what do you think of, do you have an opinion on Ronald Hearns? He's, of course, the son of Tommy, and he's got a couple of fights lined up. He's 16-0, 13 by KO. Have you seen Hearns? And if so, what's your feelings?
He's a pretty fluid boxer despite only 16 bouts. He's a two-handed puncher. He could knock you out with a left hook as well as a right hand. He's a good, strong right-handed puncher. And he's got a build like Thomas Hearns. He's not Thomas Hearns. He's never going to be as good as Thomas Hearns. But this is Ronald Hearns, and I'd like to see how he progresses in the boxing world. I think he's going to do quite well. Okay.
Of all the second-generation fighters, the Ronald Hearns of the world, the James McGurts Jr., the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who of the second-generation fighters do you like the most?
I think the one that's been exposed the most and is going to reach a title shot or maybe just a big fight first is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
What do you mean by exposed the most?
I think he's would react better under the pressure of a big fight or a title fight based on his numerous TV exposures and his boxing skills, which are improving with each fight.
So you say of those three and maybe some of the others I didn't mention, of the new generation, you think Chavez Jr. is the guy to...
He'd probably react the best under the pressure right now. However, Ronald Hearns in the future, I think he's going to be more successful than Chavez. But Buddy McGirt Jr. is also a good fighter, though he has a lot of flaws in conditioning as well as defense that he needs to fix up before he can achieve anything higher than he has so far in his career.
Yeah, you were at ringside for the Buddy McGirt fight, which was on the undercard of Miranda. He definitely slowed down the stretch, didn't he?
Yeah, but he fought it out. He showed that possibly the crowd made him fight a different fight than he would have wanted to against the opposition he was up against. But I think the main cause for this big slowdown by McGirt was his conditioning. I don't think Naglu should have been able to hit him as frequently as he did.
Okay, and finally announced, again not official, but we're going to go with it, on the Roy Jones Jr. Tito Trinidad undercard, Corey Spinks, lightning in a bottle. Corey Spinks will take on Verno Phillips. And do you think is that going to be a snooze-a-thon? But if not, who do you like in the fight? What's your feelings on that matchup?
Yes, it's going to be a snooze-a-thon, unfortunately. As was predicted in many of Corey Spinks' fights, probably since February of 2005, I think, against Zeb Judah, Verno Phillips is less than decent, and he's just a solid journeyman fighter who's... I think he's less than solid than he was when he went up against Qasim Umar about 2 years ago. He's a diminishing journeyman, which would never make for a good matchup, especially against Corey Spinks.
You give Spinks the edge in that fight? Probably a long, boring fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Okay, great. Thanks, Alden, for talking to us. Remember to check out aldenboxing.com for more information. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.